We believe health is the foundation that unlocks freedom. The freedom to live fully, to be an asset and not a burden, and to chase what truly matters. Through daily practices and proven frameworks, we are here to help you build deep health, find lasting peace, and live with your heart on fire. Welcome to the chase. Hello and welcome back to the show. Thank you so very much for tuning in this time around. The week that we are publishing this here episode, it also happens to be the week that the CrossFit Open starts. I was thinking about the CrossFit Open myself, and I remembered a conversation that Ben and I had with Mr. Cole Sager. We actually had it in 2024. We actually did it after the CrossFit Open last year. So I thought, well, maybe we do it before this time around. Maybe it's more useful, this conversation around the CrossFit Open before the CrossFit Open starts. So we are actually in this episode, we are answering a listener question about whether the CrossFit Open is a wonderful and useful test of our overall fitness. So we talk about that. We talk about benchmarks. We talk about some of the things to look out for if you are going to be throwing yourself into the CrossFit Open this week and the weeks that follow. I hope you enjoy. And so without any further ado, here is myself and Ben and Mr. Cole Sager. Enjoy. This is a question from Mark. He says, how do you recommend non-CrossFit competitors, i.e. we train CrossFit but not for the sport of CrossFit, view the CrossFit Open? Fun with friends versus your yearly fitness check-in versus something else. I always hear people say it's the best way to measure your fitness, and I just want you to get your take. If it is not the best way to measure your fitness, do you have some other recommendations or things you do periodically to see where you are, or see how you are doing?
As far as assessing fitness, I don't believe that the Open is the best way to assess fitness. And the reason why is because it's a moving target. You don't actually know what, unless you are redoing these workouts as a benchmark over and over each year, the Open in and of itself is not the best indicator of your fitness. Now, again, I just mentioned benchmarks. That could be a great way to assess your fitness. You always have to take into account some of the recovery things that we were talking about earlier. Am I fatigued? Am I not? Has my central nervous system swayed one way or the other when I did my benchmark? There's a lot of things to assess there. But I think that the Open is really, truly about engagement with the community. It's about connecting with your community, having fun, throwing down, and challenging yourself. I think that's the fun thing. It is really intimidating for a lot of people to make the decision to enter the ring, to jump into the arena. And I think that that's one of the coolest parts about the Open is like, hey, like toss out the $20 and let's get in the arena together and let's throw down, let's have some fun, let's compete with our friends. I think it's a fun indicator to figure out if you're fitter than your friends. Like that's really fun. But as far as like a true fitness assessment, I think there's a little bit more of a protocol that I would indicate or want to go through for an athlete and for myself.
I'm with Cole. I don't think it's a very useful tool. I should say I don't think it's the most useful tool to assess your fitness. I think it can be a tool, but as Cole said, it's a moving target. Did your weakness pop up this year that didn't pop up the last year? There's different numbers of participants. I know they have percentage-wise. I think most of our athletes are in masters categories, though. Are you in the later half of your age group rather than the first early part? Like, there's too many moving variables. I think Cole's spot on. Like, the breadth and depth of benchmarks for yourself is a better indicator. So in terms of what we first have to do is go, well, what is fitness, right? And that's what CrossFit did such a phenomenal job of, which is the work capacity across broad time and modal domains. We think is as elegant of definitive of a definition as we've ever had. The Open is not doing that. Like first off, there isn't even running in it. And I think that any test that doesn't involve the most fundamental of all human movements can't be called a well-rounded test of fitness. So is it a way? Yes. Is it the way? Absolutely not. Do I see it as a beneficial tool to further my fitness journey? No. I see it as a potential stumbling block. I need to be able to assess what is the right thing for me to do today. I am not in the place where I am setting up my year to target towards this one thing. I'm using the gym every day as a vehicle for me to do better outside of the gym. And if there is movements that I should not be trying because I have not been training them, then I shouldn't try them that day. And that movement goes into load, intensity, or actual movement pattern.
Yeah.
So this is how I actually hurt my back bad enough that I had surgery, which was I wasn't feeling awesome. There were pistols programmed in the thing that I was doing. Instead of listening to my body, I went and was like, I'm going to do them anyway. And that forced me, I probably would have happened anyway at some point. So I'm not blaming pistols. Sure. I ended up having a back surgery, 3 months later. So had I listened to my body and gone, this is the right thing for me today, it's not to use a 50-pound dumbbell. I should be using a 35-pound dumbbell today, even though I know I can, using it as an example. I always think that we have to take this of like zoom out, and zoom out. Why are we doing this thing in the gym? And as Mark said, I don't compete in the sport of CrossFit. Should I be using this as a thing? Then the answer to it for him is, in my opinion, is no. Like you should, what purpose does it serve? As Cole said, you're now doing this workout in the gym with other people. They care a lot about it. Go support them. Yep. But you should be doing, Mark, what's right for you that day. And if that's not touching a 185-pound barbell, because that's what was prescribed, even though I know you could get that for a couple reps, you would get a more productive workout using 155, then we should use 155. It's like you just zoom out and go, but what's the why? Yeah. And if you go like, my why for the gym is so I am capable outside, then make sure you're still capable outside. I really don't want to get injured. I want to be there as a provider and protector for my family, not somebody that needs to somebody to take care of me. If I have to go and have another surgery and I'm in a hospital bed for 3 days or in a sling or on medication, I'm the burden. And I don't want to risk that. So what I want to do is 6 days a week of sweet spot. Yeah. And if that means no reach, that means no reach. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. Now, someone like Cole, just so I finish that thought. Someone like Cole can't do it. He's at the pinnacle and threshold of human performance. He has to reach. He has to reach. But if I was hang gliding as a hobby, I'm already hang gliding. Like, I don't need to do the crazy weird things. Like, I'm not making money out of this thing. I do it because I like the view and feeling the breeze on my face. And it like gets me outside. It's a weird example. I don't know anybody that hang glides.
But I really want to now. Like you painted a great picture.
Okay, Ben, let me ask you.
It's the same thing with skiing. It's the same thing with skiing. Like I'm not going to go and enter into a downhill race. Downhill's like the crazy fast one. Like, could I? Absolutely. Could I compete with them? Yeah. Like I've been skiing a long time and I can do that. But for me, that's not why I do this thing anymore.
Yeah, and let's bounce back really quickly to the concept that Mark was also bringing up. Is this a good way to assess a fitness check-in, if you will? One of the things that I really like that Ben said is it can be a stumbling block. Well, guess what? Like I am in the sport, competing at the sport, and trying to do it at the highest level possible, and it can be a stumbling block for me. Yeah, even for me, it is not a good indicator of my fitness. And actually, a couple days ago, Ben and I had this conversation before quarterfinals. Now that we're on the backside of quarterfinals, I'm going to do them to the best of my ability, but they're not necessarily going to dictate and change the way that I'm training and the way that I'm trying to gain fitness. Will I calibrate off of them? Sure. But I can't let them be the open workouts, the quarterfinal workouts. It's not a complete test. It doesn't give the full picture of my fitness and what I have been working on over the last 6 months, 7 months, and where I'm going to. So even on that front, on the competitive side, it's still not the best thing to assess, and it can be a stumbling block for athletes.
Yeah, and also with that is where I thought you were going to go with that, Cole, as well, is in terms of it. If you really want to perform, you kind of have to set up your year for this thing. Which means that you're going to build, and then you're going to peak, and then you're going to taper, then you're going to compete, and then you're going to recover. Yeah. Well, what people fail to realize there is that necessitates an off season. Now, the off season could be 3 or 4 days, or it could be 3 or 4 months, but you're setting yourselves up to compete at that one day. Now, here's what: if you're not doing that, you're measuring yourself against people that are doing that. And that's, again, not a great way to assess your fitness is I'm going to go and do this thing for fun. I'm going to go run this 5K for fun. Yet other people are doing it to compete and have set up their whole season around this 5K.
Yeah.
It's going to look like you're not fit.
Yeah, totally.
When that might not be the case at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are listening to this, and the thing that matters for them is fitness over time. It's health in the long run and longevity. And that's really, I think, what we should be looking for and assessing. I think that's a better thing to try to, and I think that goes into more of the conversation of what Mark is asking, is like, what are some better ways to assess our fitness and continue to have health, fitness over time? And I think that's an important thing to be thinking about.
Yeah. So to throw that out there, it's one of the ways that we program, because I think that is what is a well-balanced look at certain benchmarks. And then we do 24 of those a year. Mm-hmm. Every 2 weeks you get a benchmark. And now, like, okay, one went bad because you were traveling, one went bad because of this. It's not about these 3 individual workouts over a year that dictate, am I getting fitter year over year? It's you have these constant check-ins, these constant data points that you constantly get to go back. What I mean by that is, by the 24 is essentially, except for the Open, that's where actually I don't, so it's not 26, but every 2 weeks, except for the Open, every 2 weeks, we do a benchmark. And we do it at the same time of year as we did the year before. So in the same month, you're going to be doing Fortitude as you did last year. In the same month, because there's ebbs and flows to that as well, right? In the same month, you're going to do Glenn. In the same month, you're going to do Murph. In the same month, you're going to do Fran. In the same month, you're going to do a 2K row. In the same month, you're going to do a 1 mile run. In the same month, you're going to do, and you start to like, okay. And now to Cole's point, it's like, yes, we're getting this year over year checkpoints. I prefer it year over year over year over year over year, right? What are we doing in a decade, not a year? And then you get like this continuous thing. And if 2 or 3 are down, no big deal. Like, that's not a big deal. That's actually would be amazing. 2 or 3 are down and 20 plus are up. What we're looking for is just a trend. Are the majority of them right around where they were, and some are up? That's it. Like, are they around, and a couple of them are up? That's what we're looking for.
Let's pause to say thanks to a few sponsors, and we'll be right back to the conversation. We're brought to you by Helix Sleep, the company that's revolutionizing how we think about sleep quality through personalized mattress technology. Head to helixsleep.com/excellence right now to get an incredible 27% off site-wide during their biggest sale of the year. You know, a few years ago on the show, we talked about one of the most important mindset shifts when it comes to health, which is viewing your sleep setup not as an expense, but as an investment into your well-being and your sanity. Think about it. We spend a third of our lives sleeping, yet so many of us hesitate to invest in better sleep. Better sleep means better energy, clearer thinking, and more presence throughout the day. What makes Helix different is their personalized approach. They use their sleep quiz to match you with the perfect mattress for your specific needs and sleeping style. Take the quiz for yourself. Visit helixsleep.com/excellence and get 27% off everything during their biggest sale of the year. helixsleep.com/excellence. You will not regret it. This episode is brought to you by the Defender, where exploration meets excellence. Discover the full Defender lineup at LandRoverUSA.com. Those who pursue personal growth understand that the journey matters as much, if not more, than the destination. The Defender family of vehicles embodies this philosophy, offering 3 distinct models to match your ambitions and the roads you choose to take. From the compact 90 to the 8-passenger 130, each vehicle combines durable construction with modern sophistication. Rich material finishes and practical storage solutions create an environment that's as capable as it is comfortable. Discover the full Defender lineup by heading to LandRoverUSA.com. That's LandRoverUSA.com. We're brought to you by Tailor Brands, the complete business builder that makes starting your entrepreneurial journey as straightforward as following your coach's guidance at the gym. Head to tailorbrands.com/podcast35 right now to get 35% off the process of turning your business dreams into reality. You remember that feeling when you were first standing outside the gym, heart racing, wondering if you should just turn around and go home. Starting a business can feel exactly like that. Intimidating, overwhelming, like maybe you should just wait until you're more prepared. But just like having a great coach makes that first gym session less scary, Tailor Brands is your business guide, walking you through everything from registering your LLC to creating a more personalized business plan. They provide all the essential tools you need: legal documents, licenses, permits, invoicing, bookkeeping, and even a coaching program for your first 100 days. It's like having a spotter for every business move you make. Take that first step today at tailorbrands.com/podcast35. Save 35% because the hardest part is walking through the door. With the right support, you'll wonder why you waited so long. Okay, now let's get back to the show. Ben, one maybe clarifying question to what you were talking about with the open and not wanting to do it because it could be a stumbling block, etc. What you described, isn't that basically what you do every day when you walk into the gym? Whether or not you happen to program it yourself or 4 people at CrossFit HQ decided to do it. And I asked that because I actually did, for the first time in many years, I actually sort of informally did the open this year because the gym I go to happened to program them on Fridays and I go to the gym on Fridays. And so I went through that process every single day of saying, okay, I could do the 50-pound dumbbell. I'm going to be smart and do the 35-pound dumbbell, right? So what about the open do you feel is still... I still don't really want to do that because it's going to pull me into a place of possibly doing something I shouldn't be doing. Like, what about the open specifically makes it different than, again, if you're just walking to the gym, if I'm just walking to the gym and like, what's on the whiteboard today? How do I feel? What am I going to do? What am I going to modify, et cetera?
And are we talking about participating or competing in the open? Because I feel like those are two different things.
It's a good question.
Yeah. Either or. I'll give you a really concrete example that popped up this year. The dumbbell snatch burpee workout 1. That's what I would, if that was programmed in my gym, that's what I went in and I did that workout.
Yep.
And I threw down hard and I did it as best as I possibly could. Workout 2, my 2 best movements in CrossFit are strict pull-ups and double unders. I've realized though that double unders, 1 out of every 3 double under workouts will kind of bug my Achilles. So it's not every time, but it's frequently enough that it happens. Workout 2 popped up. I had just done well in workout 1. Workout 2 popped up. I made a promise to myself that I'm not going to do double unders anymore. Workout 2 pops up, and double under. It's mostly a double under workout.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a chance to do really well. If I was doing this different than the class that I normally do in my class, I would have done the workout. I would have gotten pulled in to something that I don't normally do. But I was like, I don't normally do double unders. I'm not going to do them in this workout. So I ran. I ran every round of that instead. I still did the rowing, still did the was it burpees?
Deadlifts.
No, I don't think
deadlifts.
on that.
Oh, row, deadlift. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Row, deadlift. And instead of the double under, I ran. And that's where like, I'm not going to let this thing change the way that I feel like I'm on this long-term trajectory for what I'm trying to do. It's no different than any other workout. If it lines up, it lines up. Just like the workouts I program at the gym here. I don't program for me. I program for what I think is the best approach to health. Mm-hmm. And then there's certain things that I will modify around, just like I encourage everyone to. Remember, like I think that the best way is, we talk about this a lot internally. The saying originally was, program for the best and scale for the rest. And I think it's program for the majority and modify accordingly. It's not about scaling. It's not about making it easier. That's what we've been told. Mm-hmm. You can make this workout, and if you need to, you can make it easier for other people. Grandma can do Fran because she can do it with a broomstick and ring rows. It's not just about making it easier. It's about modifying it, not just scaling, tailoring it specifically for what is the best thing for Patrick. And that's where coaches come in. Totally. Scaling's easy. Like, how do I make this movement easier? So easy. Injury. How do I change it to make this? Cool. But there's other considerations that we need to take into place. That's not just about making it easier. Again, modifying it. You were traveling last week. We're going to modify this workout. Mm-hmm. Like, we got to change things up specific for you. And if that's a competition, it's really hard to convince someone of that.
And I can even speak to this on the training front if I get into the gym with training partners. And I've had a completely different type of week the week prior than they have. And they're coming in and they're nice and recovered, and I am not. And we're going to do this workout. You come jump in. It's like, great, awesome. But I shouldn't be doing deadlifts at 405. It's like, actually, I should be doing deadlifts at 405, but we won't get into that. But it's like, hey, like there's these movements I probably shouldn't do. I feel really beat up here. Like, I need to modify that. I need to change that in real time and get the stimulus out of the workout, get the good training in, continue to gain the fitness, but it's okay to modify.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, real quick, rapid fire. What would be good, calling benchmarks, calling measurements, if it's not the open, as you guys have pointed out? What are one or two things? Ben, I know you've got 24 or 12 or 24 different workouts, but if somebody out there was just like, okay, like I'm going to start doing, these 3 things once every 6 months to see how I'm doing. What are the 3 things? And maybe Cole, go for it with maybe the competitive athlete side. And then Ben, I'd love your thoughts on just the kind of regular gym population folks.
Oh, I mean, Ben already said it, fortitude. Come on.
All right, well, remind us what fortitude is then.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, fortitude is a great benchmark. One that I have used many, many times and Ben has utilized with me many times. So that is a great. On the athlete front, I like to look specifically at different planes of movement. So how does my pull look? So, and Ben and I have worked this for long times over the years, but I will find a benchmark that I have done in the past in a competition, and I will look, hey, what involves cycling a barbell and some upper body pulling? So Amanda 45 comes to mind right now. Like, that's a really good one for me that I would use to assess. For most athletes, let's just do Amanda. Like, Amanda would be a good example of that for a competitive athlete. But then I lean on a lot of monostructural work. I'll do a 20-minute bike test. I'll do a 10-minute echo bike test. Go sit on the echo bike for as hard as you can for 10 minutes. You're not going to want to many times in the year. Trust me. And then something like a 5K run is probably the length that I probably test the most when it comes to running. I think it has the most carryover to fitness. You can get a little skewed if you try to test a mile or an 800, depending on what energy systems and pathways are better developed in athletes. So I feel like a 5K test is a better example. And I think those are kind of the first few that come to mind.
Love it. Ben?
As Cole said, a different modality. I think of strength, cardio, and capacity. Strength, like different planes, squat, basically the power lifts that we talked about earlier. But if I want 3, I would want your squat, your bench press, and your strict pull-ups. I have a really good indicator of like your strength from that. Cardio, give me your 1 mile and your 2K. I know that they're very similar, but different athletes. If you're 6'6" and 270 pounds, your 2K might be very different than your 1 mile.
Yes.
So between those two, and if you're 145 pounds and 5'8", I know what your mile is going to be, and your 2K is going to be the other one off. So are they the same domain? Yeah, but they're so varied. So if you have a 7-minute in both, that's a much difference than just 7 minutes in one of them. And then the next one is, Cole named one of them, the capacity stuff. I want to know your fortitude. Fortitude is 30 minutes of burpees and rowing. And again, those are at odds of each other, total body pull, total body push. One bigger athlete focused, one smaller athlete focused. Really nice balanced test. And the other one would be the Bergeron beep test, where fortitude is work capacity long for 30 minutes. Bergeron beep test for most people, not for Cole, but for most people is in that like 3 to 7 minute range. And it really tells a lot about a person in terms of their high intensity capacity, whereas fortitude is like sustainable capacity.
Well-paced.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the ones I would want to know. Those 3 strengths, the 2 cardio, and the 2 capacities.
That's great. Thank you both. Thank you to Mark for that great question. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching so you do not miss another episode. For more frameworks and daily practices, visit chasingexcellence.email. And don't forget to tap the link in the show notes for today's full listener guide, where we break down the key ideas and provide actionable steps to help you put them into practice. Until next time, keep building health, finding freedom, and living with your heart on fire.